if psychology and pop culture had a baby, they'd call it Shrink Tank.
A new paper reveals more intelligent people are quicker to learn and unlearn.
90% chance that there's some weird animal out there. Yeah.
Stern's been doing this forever and far more extreme. From Nashville and Charlotte, this is the Shrink Tank Podcast. And welcome everybody. If you're joining us for the first time, a very special welcome to you. If you're coming back for more, we thank you so much for joining us again. I'm Dave Verhagen here in Nashville. We've got a great show for you. Our trending topic today is Fortnite. It's going to be a hot one. But first, let's meet our Charlotte panel. Dr. Emma Kate Wright is here. And Emma Kate, in honor of Fortnite, I want to ask you a very serious question.
Okay.
If you had to duel to the death against 100 people, let's say you were thrown out of a flying bus and then you did a hang gliding move into a small island, and there were 100 people on the island, and you had to survive in real life, how do you think you'd do?
Truthfully, I know I would die at some point before the end. But I do think I would make it about to the mid-mark. I'm pretty good at hiding. And I know I can't run away, and so that's why I would have to be good at hiding, because I got a bum leg. And so, yeah, I couldn't fight anyone either. So I might be able to scavenge for things and just hope I find a weapon of some sort to defend myself. But now if my significant other was there with me, I think I would survive. But if it was just me, I would die.
We get to bring partners, huh?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
If
Duos.
law enforcement and, Muay Thai
your
fighter.
significant other is like a bionic man.
I know.
He's like an
he's
Aryan
so
ninja.
strong and
Yeah, he's an Aryan ninja.
Oh my goodness.
He is.
Oh my gosh. Just because he's tall, blonde, and blue-eyed.
And a ninja.
Well, he did do Muay
And a
Thai
ninja.
and pursue
He's the
professional
Dolph
fighting,
Lundgren
so
of
no
America.
comment.
Just a little MMA there.
No comment.
Yeah. He's the kind of guy that in a movie, when he shows up, you're cowering in the corner, and then he comes walking into the room. You're like, I'm going to die now.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
All right. Well, Frank Gaskell's here. Dr. Frank is here. And Frank, same question. How would you do in a duel to the death against 100 people?
I have a question. Are we in a place where I can collect weapons?
Yes.
Is a storm making me get closer to everybody?
Yes.
I would make it to number 11.
Because that's what you do in the video game, or that's how you do in real life?
Both. I always end up at 11. I think I would make it into if we're talking about a normal curve, average, random sampling of people, I think I could make it to the top 10.
I don't think so. I think he would die.
If you get me a sniper rifle, I am a very good shot in real life. My dad taught me.
But without a sniper rifle,
my dad was a sniper. I know how to do this.
You would die.
No, I would find a sniper.
But you can't. You're on
in
an
this
island.
game. What?
He said it. You're on an island.
And I can find weapons.
Yeah, there's weapons there. There are weapons.
Yeah. See,
But
you
would
die because you don't listen.
But would
That's
Frank get wet?
What?
It would mess up his hair. He'd get really upset by that.
Hey, when I go to the beach, I don't take a shower for 2 weeks.
Well, then you'll
I'd be
survive
fine.
anything.
I think actually Heatherly would be the one that kills me once I make it to the top 10.
Probably.
So Jonathan Heatherly is here. He's our certified Asian who rounds out the panel. And Jonathan, same question for you. You have to duel to the death against 100 people. How do you do?
Well, when I'm looking across the table here to my colleagues, I would say, you're all smarter than me, but I probably am more ruthless, maybe cunning, maybe emotionally detached to where I could kill without remorse. I could move on.
In quotes, maybe.
I know I'm in better shape than most, if not all of you. So I really feel like I probably could go far.
Yeah, actually, Heatherly would go far because he'd be like, hey, Frank, hey, come here, buddy. It's cool. And then blam, just kill me right off the bat. Use me for food.
I'd predict Heatherly would go into the top 10, maybe top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. What about you, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the thing.
Top 99?
I'm not dodging the question, but I'm going to tell you this. One time I asked, how do you think I would do on the game Survivor? And Frank said, you would either drown in the first episode getting off the boat, or you'd
shallow
win
water.
the whole thing.
Yeah, it's either
you'd
or.
either drown in shallow water or you'd win the whole thing. And I think that's probably true.
No, it's not
in
true.
Survivor. But listen. Just hear me out.
Okay.
But I think in this game, I die in the first 10.
Okay.
You know, like
Yes.
I'm number 92 out of 100.
Your strength has been removed of like
Right.
strategy and talking to people.
Right, exactly. There's no social game in this one. It's all like, can you climb a tree and shoot a sniper rifle and
how many he would die from self-inflicted wounds. All the bones that would break, like he's running away from somebody.
Trip over a rock and crack his skull open.
So true.
Well, yeah. So I don't have any illusion that I would do well at this in real life. And by the way, I don't do well even in the game. So that's, I think, real life mirrors my gameplay. But each week, Jonathan trolls the internet and he finds a great story of psychology in the news in our first segment that we call Being Human. And today, you have a special Fortnite edition.
Yeah, so I found this article from this psychologist, family physician, Dr. Leonard Sachs. So Dr. Sachs talks about how Fortnite is sweeping the nation, but he also referenced that the American Academy of Pediatrics has concluded that games in which killing others is the central theme, aka a game like Fortnite, are not appropriate for children. And incidentally, children here means humans under 18 years of age. So in their latest guidelines, the Academy advised video games should not use humans or other living targets or reward points for killing people. So what do you do when it comes to a game like Fortnite? And Dr. Sachs concludes that longitudinal studies consistently find that self-control in childhood best predicts overall health, wealth, and happiness in adulthood. And in his book, Boys Adrift, he talks about how certain video games like Fortnite and parents' permissiveness towards those activities are actually eroding happy adult men. So, Frank, as our resident unhappy adult man, what do you make of this research?
First off, this article is a piece of crap. It really is. This guy knows not of what he speaks. And the article for me highlights a type of personality in somebody that they're going to believe what they're going to believe and the facts be damned. And it's potentially a generational thing where this guy's bringing more of his personality to this article than he's bringing anything else, because he's not citing anything that research has already shown. And my hunch is he doesn't even play the game. This thing couldn't be further from reality. And some of the games he cites, like Madden or also driving games, those games are shown to cause more aggressive behavior in real life because a person has experienced that. Nobody has experienced being dropped on an island. I mean, that kind of person really, really presses my button because they're pushing an agenda and not pushing fact or data, and they're so dogmatic about it.
Well, and I agree. I actually really did not like this article because of the things you're talking about. And it also brought up this notion of violence and how, this is a violent game and they should avoid it. That is not true. I mean, yes, the whole premise of this game is to be the last person standing, and that does involve killing others. But it is so nonviolent in terms of how graphic it is. I mean, this is like a very bright, friendly, visually appealing game that is kid-friendly. And you know what? People are seeing stuff on the news about people being killed, and that's real life, and that's not being censored. The one positive thing this article did have, though, was about setting appropriate limits in terms of parenting for video games.
Absolutely. And there's really two takeaways for me from this article and just this subject matter with Fortnite or video games. One is I'm just baffled. What do we do when the American Academy of Pediatrics sets guidelines that are completely unrealistic?
Yes.
Right.
So what do we do? But I would contend that a lot of times the Academy of Pediatrics, they're trying to set guidelines rather than, like what you said, Frank, dogmatic. This is right. This is wrong. You have to follow this. But the other is, and this may be controversial and it really requires maybe more nuance than our time permits us today, but I really feel like there is a little bit of a culture war going on with boys and masculinity
Yes.
and physicality and what is appropriate and what is normal development versus this really hyper controlled behavior, perfection in young kids to where any outlet, real or fabricated, of aggression or physicality is viewed as this threat that we're creating either these drifting adult guys or that we're going to promote violence within them later in life.
I think that's spot on.
Yeah, I do too. And I think we're all agreed on this one. And I'll tell you this, just speaking on the violence aspect of it, the data certainly doesn't support that. And I have an article up on Shrink Tank that people can see about what the research says about violence and video gaming. And I'll just give you a couple of thoughts about that. One is, and this is correlational, and you know that correlation doesn't mean causation, so it just means a relationship. But just think about this. As violent video games have increased in sales over the past 20 to 25 years, at the same time, there is an inverse relationship between youth violence. In other words, youth violence has actually gone down significantly during that time as sales of these games has gone up during that time. So it's hard to make a case that this is a major player in youth violence. Also, if you look kind of cross-culturally at different cultures, if you look at the top 10 markets for video game sales, including violent video game sales, there is no relationship, except in the U.S. in terms of spikes of violence in the U.S. that I'll talk about in a second, but there's no relationship between the rates of sales of video games and violence among youth. There isn't. In the U.S., the rates of violence are higher among youth, but the variable that stands out beyond anything else, but not exposure to video games, not exposure to movies, it's accessibility of guns. So this whole like dogging on video games, and I could go on and on. We could spend the whole podcast talking about this, but it's just, again, it's someone's bias that doesn't hold water in my mind. I do think we're agreed, though, that this idea that sometimes kids can lose themselves in these games and overdo it and be too, to the detriment of other things. I think we can make an argument that there's some of that going on. Would you agree with that, Frank? That there's a lot of kids that you're seeing that their ability to balance out how much time they spend is an issue?
I agree. I think it's also parents needing to teach their kids balance and self-control, because parents are really stressed out. Parents don't have a lot of time, and so it's an easy babysitter. But we have to be parents. You just can't let the game babysit a kid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think right now, generationally speaking, with so much technology out there, adults are having a hard time balancing themselves. And so it's really challenging to expect parents, and they need to set these limits and to be consistent in that. And so your kid's going to buck against this hands down. They are going to throw a fit because they want to keep doing what they want to keep doing. But it is your role as a parent to set a firm limit.
Well, let's go ahead and transition right into our second segment, which is to talk about the trending topic of Fortnite. And man, oh man, is it a trending topic. It is the hottest game around. And I just want to go around and ask you all how familiar you are with it, whether you play it or not. Emma Kate, start with you.
Yes, I play this. I love it. I am sad that Thanos, that version, is gone because they did a special version of this with the Avengers release where Thanos is the bad guy in that movie, and you can get his special gauntlet, which gave superpowers where you could fly around, extra health. And I mean, this game is just so fun, and they keep it fresh by doing lots of updates, and I'm a big fan.
Speaking of Thanos, think about this, the planning that had to go into this. The biggest movie in the world and the biggest game in the world doing a cross promotion. I mean, just genius, absolutely genius to do that. Frank, how about you? What's your experience with it?
I play it every day. I usually play for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour every day.
About Fortnite?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I typically will play with my son a few times a week. I finish anywhere from between top 20 to 11. And yeah, so I love this game. Can't get enough of it. But I will tell you something I'm really excited. On the island is a hatch, and it's unbreakable. It looks like the hatch from the TV show Lost. So something else is about to happen, and I can't imagine what it is. But one thought is, this is an island, right? So does the island disappear, and we end up somewhere else? That's a possibility. We'll see.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about the game we'll get into in a minute, that is how flexible it is. They'll introduce these other elements to it, and something will change the topography of the island, something will appear on the island, all these kinds of things happen. It's kind of cool. Jonathan, what's your experience with it?
Well, I have heard of this thing called Fortnite. And up until recently, wasn't sure if night was spelled Night or if it was spelled with a K, or turns out it's Fortnite Nite. My daughter plays it, but I am not a video gamer. So
You never have been.
I've never have been. So it really missed me growing up. And by the time maybe I had the time and the resources to get into video games, it just sort of, I missed that train. And so I generally view gaming with this weird detached curiosity.
Mm-hmm. And have you watched your daughter play it? Have you actually seen it?
No, I've watched Frank, because when other people are here in the shrink tank trying to do work, he'll come in and play Fortnite and disrupt everybody else from being productive or responsible. So
Wow.
I've seen that.
Wow.
But I generally like to give my kids space, and so I know that she plays it, and I know she downloaded it, but I've never seen how she does.
Well, I would argue that this game is uniquely captivating and uniquely maybe addicting, might be too strong, maybe not quite the word I want, but something in there. And would you agree with that, Emma Kate or Frank? Would either of you agree with that?
Yeah.
And so why is that?
Well,
what makes it so?
There's something about like how fast the game moves too, in terms of, okay, so you get dropped from this magical flying bus onto this island, and you can either go for 20 minutes if you make it really far in the game, or you can die instantly. And it's, you go to Tilted Towers or wherever it is, and there's all these people trying to get loot, and then you get shot and you're gone. And then you're like, well, crap, I want to do it again. I want to get back in it and see how much further I can go. And for me, I like finding the treasure chest. Like, that's more my appeal versus the combat. And I have found like a magical bush where essentially like hide and made it to number 2 multiple times because I was able to hide. So it's a lot of fun. It really is.
I want to find a magical bush.
Wow.
So that you can hide for the whole game.
Yeah, I enjoy, not only do I find it unique in terms of the gameplay and how it is updated and it's quick, but for kids, at least I've been watching with my own kids, it is crazy social.
Yep.
I mean, kids are talking to each other. Then when you're done, this is the first game that when you get killed, you immediately follow the person who killed you and you start rooting for them. And you end up kind of watching to the end. And this is actually the first video game that is recorded on YouTube and people doing playthroughs. It's now the only YouTube game that has beaten Minecraft.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. And it kind of is Minecraft. It's like if you, for those of you who haven't played the game or seen it, it really is if you took Minecraft and the Hunger Games and put them together. You are dropped off on this island from a flying bus. It literally is like a bus attached to a hot air balloon, and you skydive out of it. You hang glide into any place on the map you want to be. There are 99 other people on the map. There are little treasure chests with different power-ups and weapons. And then a storm kind of is this circle that increasingly gets tighter and tighter, forcing you closer and closer together. And it's the last man or woman standing. And what I would argue is part of the appeal of it is exactly what Emma Kate said. It's in other games, like if you play Call of Duty, you die and then you come back to life, and then you play some more and then you die. It's like you've got one life in this game, and so in a sense, it raises the stakes in terms of what are you going to do for this? You know, are you going to hide? Are you going to build a fort? Are you going to what's your strategy? How are you going to go? And you might get wiped out within literally. I've literally touched down and within 15 seconds been killed. I literally have. I mean, I touched down in this house and went inside. As soon as I walked in the door, got shot in the face. But I've also played into the top 5 or so, top 2. So it is uniquely addicting. Emma Kate.
One of the things that I want to add to my comment that is in agreement with you is that I feel like the almost like culture within the online community for this game is overall, it's really positive. Like one of the, I am not like a hardcore gamer, but I know there's a lot of trolling that happens where people are just nasty. And there's a little bit of that. But overall, I mean, I don't feel like there's a lot of really negative, maybe they have the loser dance when people like dance because they killed you. But really, it's a positive environment.
Yeah,
for the most part.
That's one of the ridiculous things about this game is all these dances that you can do and you can unlock. But the other thing, in terms of speaking of being unique, you're seeing NFL players, you're seeing NBA guys recreate these dances after they do something ridiculous in sports. And in my social skills groups, these kids have copied the dances perfectly. And in the game, you'll have 5 or 6 people dancing together before the game starts. I have had a room filled with 7 or 8 kids, and they're all doing different Fortnite dances facing each other, and it's really weird. But it's really cool.
That's funny. Jonathan, I want to ask you, as someone who is not a gamer, isn't that interested in it, but works with kids that play, has your own children that play, what, as an outside observer, specifically with this game, what do you think is the draw? What's your observation as an outsider?
Well, my hunch or suspicion is that, number one, that you can play it on your phone adds to the accessibility, the immediacy of it versus being confined to a console. I think is number one. I think the social aspect is 2. But I think it finds that perfect blend of like easy to pick up, but it's not a simple game. So I think it's a pretty seamless entry into it. Like if I wanted to, I think I could start playing it and not get frustrated right from the beginning from its complexity, but it's not a simple game. So I think it finds that perfect intersection, because I hear my daughter being very jubilant about it, but then frustrated as well. So there's clearly that balance that keeps people wanting to keep playing, even though they don't get bored of it because they don't complete it so easily in a quick manner.
Emma Kate, for you in particular, what keeps you coming back? What is the single best part of this game for you?
Finding the new loot chest. I'm serious. I love hunting and trying to figure out where are these chests. I will confess I've watched YouTube videos to find out where new chests are spawning. And in the chests are where all the good weapons and things are. They do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And, with each update that they do, I think they're doing another one soon. They change where these chests are located. And so I am part of that club that really just likes that hunt for it.
Well, and I also love one of the things that makes me come back to it is the way they change up game modes. They introduce different weapons. They'll get rid of overpowered weapons, so they'll keep it fairly balanced. And there's this newest game mode. They had 50 versus 50, which is fun, but they also have a speed mode where you've got to get moving. You can't just sit around, so that makes the games much shorter and with limited weapons. So like you only have a shotgun or you only have a rocket. And so it's just that dynamic change. The big changes in the game on a regular basis just keeps that newness there.
Do you, either of you guys, think that there is a particular strategy that usually wins? Is it just people that are just generally good at, they're good at aiming, they're good at whatever? Is there a particular strategy that's a game winner? Emma Kate?
Well, so obviously you do have to be a good shot, and I'm not a good shot. I don't know how to work controllers with joysticks. I've learned that very well. But I also think in this game you have to be a good builder in the sense that you have to be able to do it quickly to provide some protection for yourself. I think being a good builder is a big thing.
Yeah,
that is absolutely true.
Yeah, my son is about one of the best builders I've seen, even on YouTube videos. He's going to start streaming on Twitch. But even my daughter, we were watching him play, and I was astonished at how fast and complicated he can build a tower. And when he sees another tower going up, he's just boom, 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 boom. He's already 3 stories up. He switches to bricks. He makes brick walls so they're harder to tear down. And then he opens a window and looks straight down at his opponent and kills him. So if you can get to where you're maybe the last 2 or 3 circles and you can build up 5 or 6 stories, you're probably going to win.
Okay, last question. Prediction. Is this going to go the way of Pokemon Go, where it's a big, big deal? And by the way, one thing we didn't say is their business model is really intriguing. They basically give the game away for free, and they make a buttload of money. And the way they do it is by these little upsells on costumes and challenges and things like that. That's it. And they make literally in the hundreds of millions of dollars a month for it. But do you think this is a more or less flash in the pan where it'll have a good solid 8-9 months and then people will grow tired of it? Or do you think this thing has some legs on it? What's your prediction? Jonathan, start.
I think it's going to have a short shelf life. I think it's such a simple model that other people are going to exploit it. And then I would guess that the market's going to get flooded with imitations and it'll lose some of its appeal.
Frank?
I think it's got legs, in part because of branding. You've got NBA players with Fortnite shoes, T-shirts, stuff on Reddit, clothing lines, but also it's not only just the freshness, but the game that I believe came before this is called PUBG. It's just a more realistic version of Fortnite. And for this to surpass PUBG in popularity, and you've got the summer ahead, kids staying home, kids playing it, I think it's going to get bigger. I do see it dying out. There's always going to be a new thing, but I think this will definitely outlast Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm kind of somewhere between Frank and Jonathan in the sense that I actually played Pokemon Go a lot longer than most people probably. And what got me out of that was the changes that the developers made. And so I really think that the progress of this game, given that they do make a lot of changes and they are really flexible with what happens, the longevity of it is going to be based on what the developers do.
I'm kind of in the direction of, I think it has more longevity than most games. And part of what has tipped me in that direction is this cross promotion with Infinity War with Thanos, and realizing what had to go into that to make that happen, that small little thing in the game, that little game type that's going to last for just a week, to get the cross promotion, get the licensing, have the coding down, to think about it, how they've thought about each season where a meteorite hits and wipes out part of the map, and then there are other things that happen on the map that change it. I think the dynamic nature of it and what they've shown that they're willing to do and how creative they are is going to give it a little more legs than some other games. So we will see. I would predict probably a good 2-year run on this thing. Yeah. So, all right, well, let's transition to our final segment that we call our doctor's orders. And these are things that we're personally enjoying in pop culture. Emma Kate, do you have something?
I do. So I will be honest, I really have never watched much anime. And I stumbled across a Netflix show called Agretsuko. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that. But this story is about a little red panda named Retsuko. And she works at an office, has a pig that's a boss, who's sexist. And what caught my attention was that she sings and does karaoke to death metal, which was really unexpected and hilarious. And, there's quick little jokes in there. Each episode is only about 10 to 15 minutes, so I would check it out.
Frank.
I am going to recommend a Lego set. It came out in May, and I just got it, and I'm building it, and it's the Ultimate Collector Edition of the Y-Wing. And one reason why I'm specifically recommending this is the attention to detail on this thing is like no other Lego set I have seen. And it's difficult to build, but it's just a fun build because it's not monotonous.
And Jonathan.
Two things I want to recommend. One is I just finished up the first season of HBO's show Barry, starring Bill Hader, and it is
excellent.
A great show. I highly recommend it. Even if you don't have HBO, wait another few weeks until Westworld is halfway through its run, and then get a 1-month subscription, binge watch Westworld, binge watch Barry. I highly recommend it. The second thing I want to recommend is I came across a podcast and a YouTube show called Off Camera with Sam Jones. Sam Jones is a photographer and documentarian, and he just does these very accessible interviews with celebrities on all humorous or serious topics. He's done John Mulaney, John Goodman, Bill Hader, a number of celebrities. You can get it as an audio podcast or watch it. It's called Off Camera with Sam Jones.
And my recommendation is a Netflix show. If you love David Letterman, which I do, he's got a show called My Next Guest, and he interviews everyone from Barack Obama, Tina Fey, and it's especially a good show if you just are missing Letterman on late night. But his long form is allowing for an hour to have a lengthy conversation and really get into some things. He's just a very, very good, uniquely good interviewer in his own way. And it's funny, it's entertaining. If you just want to watch one episode, I'd pick the Tina Fey episode. Really good. The Barack Obama one is also really insightful. So it's called My Next Guest with David Letterman. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Shrink Tank Podcast. We hope you'll check out shrinktank.com for great articles and videos, and also find our links to Doctor's Orders products on shrinktank.com. Follow us on Twitter at shrink_tank, and we also hope you'll like us on Facebook. For questions or comments, email us feedback@shrinktank.com. The email is feedback@shrinktank.com. We hope you'll write us. Our producer and theme music composer is Sean Beck. Our associate producer and social media guru is Mariel Butler. For Emma Kate Wright, Jonathan Hedderly, and Frank Gaskell in Charlotte, I'm Dave Verhagen in Nashville. Tell all your friends about us and make it a great week.
Shrink Tank.